YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Peace and love, kings, queens, and gods. You know what it is. You know who it is, and you know what we doing. I'm the Floating Yogi. This is Floating Yogi's Book Club, and we about to go in. So come on in, invite a friend. Matter of fact, invite about 10, because it's the Floating Yogi's Book Club, and we about to figure out how yoga works. That's what we reading. That's what we getting started on. So, I'm going to give y'all a few moments to do exactly that. And if you have a copy of the book, go on, grab that and slide on over to that link that's posted at the bottom at coursesue.uedc.com. You can find it pinned at the bottom, and that will send you to the UE website where you can become part of the growth gang, where you can sign up, create an account, and start to access some of these services that we have to create better states of well-being. One healthy habit at a time, something that you can manage, something that you can build on and see measurable growth. And once we can attain just that measurable growth with one thing, then we'll expand to the next and see how far we can go. Some of the people who helped me beat me, helped me do what I do. We got my dude Payoga, he's part of the crew. DJ Tony comes from a dimension where people are our greatest resource, and that's exactly what he is. I encourage you to tap in and see how he can be a phenomenal resource to you. Matter of fact, go and let him know about like the morning stuff. Let him know about the growth gang, man. Talk to him for a second. Let me invite some folk in. Go and invite 10.
As you know, I am Tony, and he already stated what I believe, which is that people are our greatest resource. Now, that being the case, I wake up every day ready to love, ready to try and make everybody I know have a better day, some way. And the most helpful thing that I have ever discovered to having a better life is meditation. Sitting with yourself and the universe for a minimum of 1 minute a day, because that's how I started. So, for 1 minute a day, which is about 5 breaths, I just breathe every single morning. And I send that love and positivity out to y'all. Now, before I breathe, I tell you I love you. And after I breathe, I pray. Then I head on over to UE.DC and I click on that Move to Meditated button so that the next day I get a little shout out that reminds me of Move and Meditate again. It's a real simple process. And I would love for you to be a part of it too.
It's that simple, like you said. It's that simple. Hey, what up, Dale? Welcome. Come on through. You already know where we at. You already know what we do. We are halfway through how yoga works. And halfway through this intro, too. Some of the other people who help me beat me, help me do what I do. We got my dude, Brent. He's part of the crew, too. As well as Lifeform. If you're looking for any of the digital assets, some of the content you can get online to spread your stuff on social media or a newsletter, hit up Brent. He'll be able to give you those contents to just dress it up, make it nice and saucy, and see what else he can provide. Also, we have Lifeform. They have some fantastic mats where you can start your own mat practice so you can build up and grow and take those on mat lessons and those on mat habits that we created and start to bring them into our day-to-day life in spaces like this, and spaces like Midday Mind Right or Thursdays at 12. Alright, with all the fun stuff out the way, there's a sound bath this Sunday with me in China. It's going to be amazing. That is the long short. I encourage you to tap in. That's it. Is there any more ads? Tulum's hitting. I'm gonna tap into that a little bit later after we talk about this lady who's locked up. We're gonna talk about a little tranquility and freedom. What else is there? That's it. Let's get to it. About halfway through, we are on page 186, chapter 28, Seeds Are Planted. Second week of September. The next class, we went straight to the point. It's best to do very important things as soon as you can, because the more important they are, the better the channels that something might happen to stop them. And this certainly turned out to be a day like that. So let's summarize where we are so far. I began. It's not the case that we see the pen as itself, as a pen, because it's a pen from its own side. Otherwise, Mr. Cow might have tried to write a letter with it, but she didn't. So it must be something in our own minds that make us feel as though, or see it as a pen. And last week we saw that how our minds organize things into things is not just something we can consciously decide. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any of the problems in life that we do have. Since we could just wish things into things we wanted. And so there must be other forces at work, behind the scenes, forces beyond our current control. And the master said that these forces are seeds. Certain seeds in our minds, ripening moment by moment and forcing our minds to organize bits and pieces of information into images, into things themselves. Small problem right there, interjected the captain, raising his hand. Almost like a boy in a classroom. I knew what his problem was, but I let him go ahead and say it. He was such a wonderful student. He actually took things home and thought about them over and over until he came to a next logical question with them. What's that? I said, playing along. I understand that there may be seeds in my mind that step in and act when I look at some cylinder-shaped patch of green and make me see it as a pen. But what about the green itself? I said, you tell me. There are people who can't see colors, you know. Colorblind people. Same thing. No seeds. They don't have any seeds going off in their mind and organizing other parts into a patch of color. And in this case, other parts are the left side of the patch and the right side of the patch. Even colors and shapes are still just images pieced together by our minds. I paused. Dun, dun, dun. Forced to do so by the seeds there, the seeds in each separate person's mind, he continued. But then why, he blurted, why do we see the same objects? Why do you and I both see this thing as a pen if the pen isn't coming from its own side? You tell me. I challenged him. He frowned and thought for a moment. Same seeds, same kind of seeds, he asked. Exactly, I said, or nearly so. Of course the two of us see, and that's why we see, the same pen in a slightly different way. But insofar as we both see a pen at all, well, we have the same kinds of seeds in our two minds. So you plant the same seeds, you kind of reap the same fruit. But now you must do as you promised, he said, seriously, and tell me, where do the seeds come from in the first place? Because, I prompted him. Because, he said, gazing at something outside the window, something beyond the sky. Because if what we've said is true, if what we're seeing this happen, because if what we said is true, if we are seeing this thing as a pen only because there are seeds in our mind that force us to see it as a pen, then if we could change the seeds, if we could affect these seeds, if we could cultivate certain seeds purposefully to destroy undesirable seeds, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't eventually say it, I said. See ourselves, see our very own bodies, flesh and blood turn into light. Sort of like the ultimate yoga pose, if you think about it. And then we could turn this process further on things around us. I mean, theoretically, if what we have said is true, and I see no reason why it should not be true, then we could really come to a place of perfect light as ourselves, and be with all those with whom we have suffered so far along this life. All of us the same place, the same light. Perfect. I breathed again. And so we must understand how these seeds work. And again, this is all part of the deeper yoga that the master passed on to us so perfectly. And here he says, the storehouse is planted by the things we do. Storehouse is planted by the things we do. When he says storehouse here, the master is talking about the storehouse in our own minds, the place where the seeds stay until they ripen and compel our minds to organize other parts into an image, into a thing. And he answers the most important question. He tells us where the seeds come from by saying that they are planted by the things we do. And if you think about it, it makes sense on a very basic level. Something has to have put all these seeds in our mind, and this is obvious, not the kind of thing where someone can come along and get a handful of beans into your mind and pour them into your ears. If the seeds ripen as perceptions, as something real, something mental, then it makes sense that they were planted by mental perceptions in the first place. And what the master is saying is that we plant these seeds every time we perceive ourselves do something, anything. Self-reflection is a powerful way to perceive ourselves doing something. And that's a part of meditation. If you self-reflect and look back on the things, even if you don't consciously stop and look back on the things, if you have a moment where something feels familiar and you take a flashback, that counts as well. Now, how deep you go with it, how much you explore those darker realms, now that's up to you. How much you trying to grow? Deeper the roots, the higher you go. All right.
Wait.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, hold on, let me get a little sip of water. See what's happening on IG. What up, y'all? I'm going to throw some fire in the chat. You're trying to be like.
If we plant these seeds, every time we perceive ourselves as doing something, anything, then it implies that that's all we need to be able to plant any seeds we want, which is not the case.
Why do you say that's not the case?
Because everybody can do it, even people who have imagination.
This is about to be interesting.
Not that everybody could do it, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know what's hindering everybody, no judgments, but I just believe that the way the universe works.
Hold on, put it there, boo.
Here.
Watch out. Whew. Yeah. Did you finish eating?
No, I done.
You all done?
Yeah.
You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hey, Jones.
I'm going night. I'm going bed.
Good. It's late. My kid's already in bed.
I'm going bed.
Yeah. She is going to bed now. All right, Jones. Give me a kiss.
Is that ball?
Yeah, those are the balls. Going upstairs to mommy. It's time for bed.
One here.
Oh, thank you. Can you put it back?
What's that?
No. Daddy's reading. It's book club time. Yeah, put it back. Alright, I'm going upstairs, give mommy a hug, and hop in the bed.
No, I want to listen. I want to finish my movie.
Right.
So, if we could, not that. Oh, wait.
Let's get it.
Wait.
I'm back.
I think if that was all it took, then more people would utilize it more.
Sometimes it's easier said than done. That's the long short of it. There's a lot of fixes we can do in our life to fix a lot of the health issues that we have, but a lot of people don't want to drink water. A lot of people don't want to move their body. A lot of people don't want to sit with the shit. So, yeah, it can be that simple, but we have created a culture where people just want a pill. They don't want to do it. They just want it to just snap their fingers and happen. Hey, what up, Brent? Welcome. Nadia! Woohoo! Nadia! What up, Nas? Go and check out our retreat in Tulum. It's on the UE website. It's on Nadia's website. It's on my website. That joint gonna be hitting. Tranquil in Tulum. Alright, back to the show.
Shout out to Rita and Anderson Brown are on Facebook dropping a heart.
Hey, love your mama. Yeah, everyone can.
That's your mama?
That's my mama.
Oh, I'm pregnant.
And yeah, everyone can plant seeds, but not everyone does. And the seeds can be planted but not watered. And other seeds can be watered more than that one that they say they want. You want some water, Jules?
Yeah, I just told you.
Mm-hmm. Here you go.
I want your tigers.
Okay.
It's Cody. Yeah. Oh.
Here you go, Jules. Watch your fingers.
Eat down. Daddy, just reading your book.
Yeah, we're reading a book, Jules. Alright, I'm gonna start reading again, Jules. You gotta be quiet. The captain made that frown of his again, and then said, but anytime we do something, whenever we do anything, well, of course we perceive ourselves doing it. We see ourselves doing it on some level or another. Exactly so, I said. And so everything we ever do, any action we ever take, any word we ever utter, even the very thoughts we think, they all plant seeds in our minds, simply as we are aware, in any way that we are doing them. Seeing ourselves do them plant a seed, makes them an imprint on our mind, like pressing your hand into a lump of clay. We call those samskars in yoga. Oh, I learned about the samskars. And the actions or the words or the thoughts, they may stop and we may go on to something else. But the imprint made on our minds, it stays there. And it becomes a seed. A seed that will, yeah. And we'll be back to our regular broadcasting in a moment. You need some help?
No.
Remember to check out UE.DC on IG. It is a very valuable resource. We got the daily meditation and accountability check-in where we just basically ask, did you move and meditate today? Then you get to click one of the two buttons, either yes, I moved and meditated, or no, I'm stuck and stagnant. And the next day, you get a little shout out. And that reminds you to move and meditate the next day. It's a fun club to be a part of. Very exclusive.
Growth Gang, and we're back. Alright. And the actions or the words or the thoughts, they may stop and we go blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's where I was. And the actions or the words or the thoughts, they may stop and we may go on to something else. But the imprint they made on our minds, it stays there. And it becomes a seed that will determine how we see our world later on. And so now let's take a real example. Let's say you're walking down the road out there and you see a man who said something unpleasant to you for a few days before. And so you make up some excuse to hit him with your policeman's stick on the back. It's coming close to home right here for him. In the very moment that you decide to hit him, a thought flashes through your mind. You have a picture, a vague picture perhaps, of him holding his back in pain just after you hit him. And then you do hit him, and you see yourself actually doing it. And you see a much clearer image of his pain with your own eyes. And then later perhaps on the way back to the station, you think with satisfaction about how you got back at him for what he did. In your mind's eye, you see yourself again hitting him, and him in pain. Each time the pain is anticipated or actually seen or reflected upon later, well, then an imprint is placed on your mind, like a handprint left in soft clay. It's an imprint of pain that you have caused in someone else's back. It stays there. It becomes a seed. And then one day your mind goes to some other parts. I paused to see if he could pick up the thread. He hesitated, but then it came to him. Other parts, say, like the bones of the lower part of my spine. And the seeds ripen just then. And imagine in the image of pain planted in the clay comes to the front of the mind. And I'm sitting at my desk, hunched over, an important report in the middle of the 8th year of my service here. I suddenly feel, my mind makes me feel, he paused. He got it. The seeds in my mind, they ripen. And that imprint, that old image of pain in the area of the back that was planted when I saw myself call someone else that pain, it comes back to me, to myself, making me feel the very same pain. And his hand went instinctively to his back. Ooh. Ooh. Then he stopped, and I could see the ideas begin to pour through his mind. And he said excitedly now, it makes sense. I always hear about this kind of idea. People all the time are talking about how what you do comes back to you, but nobody really, we never take it seriously because it wasn't very clear how it could all work, really. You think about it and it seems to make sense. It would be very perfect kind of justice in the entire universe, really, if what you did to others always came back to you. And if you look at the other way around, everything that ever happens to us only happens to us because we have done the same thing to someone else. But until you explained it to me the way you did, starting with the pin, you see, and the cow, and really proving to me beyond any argument that it must be something in my own mind that makes me see it as a pin. Well, until the idea of this inescapable justice on the grand scale was just something that sounded like it should exist rather than something that does exist. Something that does exist and dictates, then every single detail of our lives, every single detail of the world around us, it's so pure, he said, looking into my eyes with a kind of reverence. And it's so overwhelming. He moved his hand up to his forehead and rubbed it in a way he used to rub his back. A lot of questions, he then said. Then the more the better, I answered. It's the only way to learn, but it still didn't get him out of his poses. You still gotta get this work though. Congrats, you had an awakening. Now see how your body feels through these changes. Because it should be a little bit different.
I got it, question.
The more the better.
It's gonna sound bad. had to ask you live, but do you always have to push yourself in yoga? Can't I just get some poses or the basics and be good for 60 years?
What do you want? It depends. Yes, you can.
Consistent health?
To what extent?
A good physical health routine?
Sure, just do the sun salutation. Work on pushing yourself through the sun salutation so you can fold a little bit more, so your press is stronger, your chaturanga's off the ground, your up dog is longer, your down dog, you can elongate the spine, you can actually stretch the calves, hamstrings, the glutes, you can feel it through the low back, you could stretch the arches of the feet. These things, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so
but it's to the depth you want to push yourself. That's where the ratchet comes in.
I'm trying to think about. So if there is a threshold of basic, I really want to measure how much growth there is in response to another pose in other areas in order to quantify the amount of energy I want to exert into such a process.
I'll say this.
Like I said, this is a bad question to ask live.
And nah, it's a good one.
Live right now,
it's a good
I'll
one.
just be like, yada yada yada. You'd be like, oh, you can try me.
Now I say it's a good one because it really depends on the effort that you put in. If someone's not really putting effort into their practice and they half-assing it and they always like they're not working on the breath, they're just sitting there 5, all right, move forward. If you're not being present, you're gonna move your body. It's just like people go to the gym and half-ass it, don't really put no weight on it, or put weight on it and do like 2 reps and they done, and then sit there texting on their phone the whole time. They start to run. They supposed to run for like 45 minutes, but it's really a walk, and it turns out being like 10 minutes of walking and
5 minutes of pictures.
Yeah, like it's the same thing. Are you going to get benefit from going to the gym and actually doing something? For sure. And you're going to be way better than someone who does absolutely nothing. And I'd even take it a step further because I've heard this concept before as well, where people have been creating a routine and a habit, and they do that by just going to the gym and walking like 1 mile and being done. If that. Go to the gym, they do a rep. I know one person went to the gym and just sat in the parking lot for 30 minutes for like a week. Then the next week they went to the gym and went in and just went in. And the third day of them just going in, they just did a little light workout. And by the end of the second week, they were doing like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But it was just getting up and getting out. Especially with kids, yo. Like, it's crazy. Thinking about how much you have to put together and have to leave the house can dissuade some from doing whatever their plans are.
All right, we got to get back to book club. But
Yeah.
Thursday's first question is I want a Yogi breakdown of gym physical health equivalent to yogic practice and energetic flow of equivalence.
Run that back.
Because people, walking a mile a day is a fantastic start and may even be a fantastic daily thing for 5 to 10 years. That walk can be a power walk, you feel me?
Yeah.
And I got a brother that's obese, and that's why I know that. When I can stand behind statements like that.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, was a college athlete. I feel like at bare minimum, if I wanted to be at my physical health peak proud, I should be able to run a mile a day. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, I could run a mile right now. It'd be...
Might be a little gas, but you ain't gonna be dead. Yeah.
I need some breezing. But, like, I'd do it for $20. If somebody cash out me $20 right now, I'm going on Facebook Live and run a mile. You know, like, ain't no sweat.
How about this? How about this? If someone cash out you $20, you do it for 20 days.
Man, that's real work. I might as well just go ahead and do it. See, that's not even...
I'm just saying. We put it out there. We get 20 people to cash out.
We gotta get the book club.
We gonna finish the chapter. We almost done. We get 20 people to cash out you $20.
Oh, for sure. That's easy.
Alright then. Or 10 people. You know, we see how moving shit.
Yeah, no.
Alright.
You know, I did 20 days for 50. Like, I was doing...
Oh yeah, this is the chapter right here.
Alright, so
okay.
191.
Yep. The night I was fast asleep, and then a sound came outside the bars of my cell and woke me. I thought it was some terrible dream, some memory of what had happened before, but it was terribly real. And now it was the sergeant again, hanging onto the bars with his hands, his eyes drunk and gleaming red once again, and the stink of the liquor filling the late night air. "You will come with me," he said. That's my drunk voice. And without a question, I knew he meant it. Deadly serious this time. He'd gotten another stick somewhere and cracked it against the bamboo bars as he lifted the crossbar free from the door. Ravi, what are you doing now?" came Basuku's sleepy voice. "Shut up, Basuku," roared the sergeant. And I heard the stick flail down on the line of bars on the other side, and the sharp cry as it struck Basuku's knuckles. "Ravi!" he called again, in a warning of his own. Nothing to worry about this time anyway, Basuku. And I tell you the truth," the sergeant stood tall, weaving inside of the cell now. And he said to the wall there, to the dead dusty wall, because I'm taking her to see the boy," he said simply, but with so much pain that it hurt my own heart to hear it. Basuku went silent then, totally silent, and I felt that it meant that I should go with the sergeant. And so I did, through the darkness, following the dark form and the sound of the stick dragging useless on the ground, and the sickening smell of liquor. We went a fairly long way out near the old woman's house, and then beyond, up a small road and into a small yard that spoke of ruin and neglect, into a dark room where his smell had been so often, so long that every article in the room seemed soaked in it. And there was a small fire and a small hearth just for light, and a small figure, a child, hunched before the flame in a blanket with his back to us. Near the door was a single bare table with a single candle, and sitting on the mat beyond it was a woman, an old woman. I studied her face in the silence. It was creased deeply with a lifetime's line of pain, and little white scars around the eyes, and the lips all framed in a shock of white hair. And then I suddenly realized that she was a sergeant's wife. And I suddenly saw all the beatings she had lived through, and saw in her eyes the undefeated kindness that was often grows with a person subjected to this worse and daily pain. And she smiled softly to say, "Please excuse my husband," without saying it. And not saying it said to me that she would be beaten again if it were. And we understood each other fully in that first moment. and I nodded, and she nodded back ever so slightly. And then the sergeant and I sat at the table. The kind woman pushed me a little cup of warm, simple tea, and the sergeant pulled a clay jug from under the table and took a deep, long draught, and then fixed those angry crimson eyes on my own. I was drunk, he said. He drank again. Got drunk with the captain, like we used to. He paused, drank again. I came home, they were sleeping, she and the boy. Notice I got like a little slur going on. And he waved the jug towards the figure sitting there before the fireplace. He lifted it up to his lips again, but then simply set it down to the table. He stared at me. His face twisted and tears sprang out. I knocked over a candle like this one, and he stared into the small flame, and jagged lines of tears inched down his face. The woman looked away. The straw, you see, they were sleeping on some straw, you see, and it caught fire. And I at first didn't notice, too drunk to notice. And then they are screaming. She and the boy are screaming, and the flames are up in my face, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. But I say to myself, Ravi, you are an officer of the realm. And you are trained in the Royal Academy itself. And you know how to act, you know when to act, and so now just carry out your duty as you've been trained to do. And I calm myself and I reach into the flames and I feel the two arms there and I grab them into them and with all my might, and I tear them from the fire and from the house, kicking and screaming. And when outside I'm wondering why kicking and screaming, why still kicking and screaming. And I look down into my hands, at the arms in my hands, and my hands closed like steel vices, and the woman cried in pain, despite herself. And you see, it was only her two arms I'm holding, only her two arms. And then finally, I can hear what she's screaming. And she's screaming, the boy. He suddenly exploded. Boy, get up, come here. And the little blanket at the fireside stirred and stood slowly, stiffly, and the boy came to the table and his face caught to the light. What I saw first was the kindness and softness in his eyes, love, as if he'd never lived in this house with this man turned demon, and as if he had never seen the reflection of his own face. And the face I saw then was slick and red on one side as if it were wax. Wax that had melted and fallen into his neck, glued there now in a web of angry skin. I started to cry despite myself. Not at his ruined face, but at the pain he must have had. And the pain that he had now underneath his obvious courage. The sergeant sat for a moment, studying the same face, crying steadily. And he reached out and held what remained of his cheek and said only, "My boy," in a voice of love and pain. And then he turned to me and said, "Can you fix him? Can you fix something like this? Like you fix the captain's back?" The woman moaned at her husband's impossible hope. He didn't even hear. And his leg, he went on excitingly, his leg, you see, "Boy, walk over to the fire and back. Show her your leg." And with unspeakable, fathomable cheerfulness, the boy looked up into my eyes warmly and turned and dragged himself to the fire, one leg flopping weakly and then back again. And he looked up again at me not really hoping, but just because of the love in him, love for anyone. And Katrine came into me, and I was getting up, and I was sitting up with the captain holding up a glorious pen of truth between us, and turned to the sergeant and his wife and said, anything is possible. And then I am outside the doorway of the dark house again, but now the moon is out and the sergeant is looking into my face, and I and his, and say, but there is one condition. Anything, he says. You must come to learn as well. You must be cured as well. He shook his head sadly. The sickness I have cannot be cured. I stop. It stops, and it always comes back. You cannot ask me for that. I cannot learn it, even from you. I shook my head resolutely in the dark. You can learn. You must learn. And not from me. He looked down at me, puzzled. You will learn. You will learn from the captain. He opened his mouth to object. It's not for you, I hissed. It's for him. For the captain. And you will do it, or the boy remains as he is. He stood there in the pale light, with his mouth still open, and then he closed it softly and nodded quietly and brought me back to the jail. Damn! She got a little bit of leverage. She creating opportunities with her hands and her mind. Turning the inside of that jail looking like the outside of the jail. Oh. I like it. It's spicy. Ooh, now we getting into why the sergeant drinks. What he's masking and running away from. Spicy. Ooh wee. Alright, what we got going on? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to tap in? Make this thing work. Push the button. Nadia, you still rocking with us? Yeah. Anything you want to add, Tony?
He running the jail! She done turned the outside to the inside. She done got the captain and the sergeant. When this whoever's supposed to come through, he's gonna be like, what happened?
Yeah. And when the other impactful thing is when, like, she might not, who knows what happens in the story, but changing the skin might be a little difficult, but the leg might be a thing. There's this whole branch of yoga that was taught by, what's his name, Iyengar, BKS Iyengar, who was in a wheelchair. He was taught Ashtanga by Krishnamacharya, and he created his own branch of yoga after he got out of his wheelchair. It was tailor-made to him, and the sequence, how it was taught, was tailor-made to him. Yoga has changed over the years, so if you're like looking for yoga, find something that could be tailor-made to what you're looking for. I encourage you to
yoga has changed over the years?
Oh,
it's not ancient?
It's for sure changed over the years, especially over here in America.
But isn't it ancient?
It started 1-on-1. I'm teaching you just like how it is in this book. But now we got classes with like 30 people in there, with like 40 people. We got online sessions where we're connecting to people. So it's changed in so many ways, and through those different mediums, things have been lost because we're not even physically there. It's even hard for me, me and you, Tony, to explain and articulate certain things because I'm not able to actually put hands on you. And I think if that was the case, If you was here for like a week, I'd say 2 weeks. But if you was here for like a week, oh, you'd be like, oh, I totally see how I can do this. All right, your backflips would be you'd be able to go home for months and be able to just grow on your own.
We on live right now, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say, let's talk about it.
Oh, it's for sure changed. People add music now and make it more about fitness than true yoga. Oh, thank you. I be trying. I be trying to teach the real yoga. It ain't all about the movements, and that's great, but that's just tapping on the pipes from the outside. We got to do the breath work. We got to do the meditation. We have to actually make the changes in our day-to-day life off of the mat. Like who we are, our intentions behind things, our mindset behind things. We got to sow those seeds and water them that we were talking about today. Start to plant them, reflect on ourselves so we see how we're going about it, and we're reinforcing the way that we want, as opposed to those errant actions that we can have from time to time where it's just like reacting to things and not, oh, this is a chosen response because it's gonna impact the world, the people that are around me in a better way. Say it. Yeah. So yoga has changed, and how we do yoga has changed. Yoga hasn't changed, but how we participate in it has. I like that framing. We had to go through all of that to arrive here. Whoa. And here we are. But what else we got going on? Check out the retreat with Tulum. We doing some real yoga on this retreat. We got some sound healing happening. It is in February 20th through the 24th. The joint is lit. The place is beautiful. It's 3 pools in there. We have 4 rooms left. 4 rooms left. So get your spot before it sells out. I got Thailand coming up, so there's going to be Thai massage offerings available as well. We got some astrology talks. It's just going to be lit. I'm going to have the Moonology cards and some. We going to make it happen, yo. We going to do some introspection so we can sow some new seeds and got some great things to reflect on so we can see ourselves in the future that we want to have moving forward. So, with that being said, check out the website, check out Pay Yoga Universe, check out Brent, check out Nadia Star, check out Lifeform, check out Yui, because who we? Yui, baby! And check out the book club and Midday Mind Right on Thursday. Peace and love, kings, queens, and guys.